Chaverim, good evening. I have a question for you. Who was called in the Gemara Rosha ben Beno shel Esav Rosha? Who was Zoicha to get that terrible name? Well, the answer is Titus HaRosha. Titus HaRosha destroyed the Beis HaMikdash, the second Beis HaMikdash. Very interesting what happened, says the Gemara. You see, he gathered up all the kelim of the Beis HaMikdash into the Poreiches, and he put them on his ship and travelled to Rome. And on his way to Rome in the ship, there was a terrible storm in the sea, and he was going to get drowned, and he was scared that his ship would be smashed and he would be killed. And then he realized, of course, that it was HaKadosh Baruch Hu who was threatening him. So he looks up to Shamayim and he says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, "Oh, Rabbeinu Shalom, so your kayak is in the sea. You killed Parai and the Mitzrayim you killed with water. And the marble you brought, you destroyed in the beginning of Bereshis. So you're coming to kill me with the sea because you're only strong in the sea. If you're really strong, why don't you do war with me? Wage war with me on the dry land." And the Rebbeinu Shalom, says the Gemara in Gittin, answered back Titus HaRosha, "Rosha ben Beno shel Esav HaRosha. Beria katana yesh li b'olam." You have a tiny little creature. You want to do war? You want to wage war with the Rebbeinu Shalom Kaviyachol? Wage war with the smallest creature I have, the Yitush, the tiny little insect. Go to the dry land and wage war with the insect. So Titus HaRosha gets on the dry land in Italy, and this little Yitush flies up his nostril, goes into his brain, and starts eating his brain. And he was Sovel Yisurim, and it banged and banged and banged away at him, until eventually he died. And the Gemara says they opened up his brain and a bird came out. Maybe that's where we get bird brain from. So Titus challenges the Rebbeinu Shalom and says, "You're only strong in the sea." So HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends the tiniest little insect, the tiniest barrier, and it destroys Titus. We have the coronavirus. In modern technology, where everyone thinks we've got computers and robots and nuclear power, and we're so clever, and we're so strong, mankind is set to just continue with Atzlacha. We can fly to the moon. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, how are you going to survive with something smaller than what I sent against Titus HaRosha? A microbe, a virus. You can't even see it. And suddenly the whole world comes to a halt. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is a reminder, a clear reminder, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the show. He's running the show of every second of everyone's life. I'm going to tell you a great story now, which happened to me 3 years ago. The story is about a cake. Yes, an 11 shekel 80 cake. How much is that? That's about $3. 3 years ago, Parshas Bereshis. I'm going from my house at 11:20 at night by car to Mevaseret Zion, which is about 2 kilometers away. I'm driving to Mevaseret. I have a meeting there. I'm on my way back to Yerushalayim. On the side of the road, I see a chassid with a big shtreimel just by the Castel. Those of you who know Yerushalayim, just under the bridge. Well, there was a bridge there now. They've changed it since. And he's coming for a ride. I stop the car, and he gets in the back. I didn't see his face. And he says he wants to go to Shari Ha'ir, which is in the Knesset to Yerushalayim. It's on my way. He gets in, and we start traveling towards Yerushalayim. And I ask him, do you know what the Sheish Mitzvahs Tamidiyos are? Maybe in another shir, we'll give you a fantastic shir about the Sheish Mitzvahs Tamidiyos. So he doesn't know what they are, and I can tell him, and I give him a simon, and we're discussing the Sheish Mitzvahs Tamidiyos, the 6 constant mitzvahs which every Jew must be consciously trying to think of all the time. And he's so amazed, he says to me, can you record that for me on my phone? And he sticks his phone by my ear. And I tell him the whole thing, the whole shtickle Torah which I told him. And he's so impressed. And he says, thank you. And we get to Knesset of Yerushalayim. I turn left and I drop him off by the road he wants to get out, Shara Yair. I'm driving down towards Ramat Shlomo. And I hear something rattling around in the back of the car. And I turn around. There's a bag with a cake in it. An 11 shekel 80 ozam honey cake. It's a Wednesday night. And I say, I don't know what this guy looks like. How am I going to give him his cake back? Quick! I turn around, they did a U-turn. And I stop the first chassid on the side of the road. I wipe down the window. And I show him the cake. I've got your cake! He goes like that. Wrong chassid. Well, after stopping two more chassidim and showing them a cake, with no luck, I realized there's no way I'm going to find this guy. I didn't know what he looked like. All I saw was the Bekish on the Shtreimel. He must have come from a chasna or something. So I get home, 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock at night, and I say to my wife, some guy left this cake in the back of the car. I don't know what to do with it. I put it on the side. Now, the next day, my wife flies to England for a chasna, for Yoel Becker's chasna. And Thursday, I'm looking for a place to go for Shabbos. Don't want to be alone without my wife, so we want to take the four kids who are in the house with me. I want to take them away for Shabbos. Now, we never usually go away to a hotel, but this is a special occasion, and we're going to try and find a hotel. So I say, oh, I remember, Gali Sands and Netanya. We're going to go to the Gali Sands and Netanya hotel. I phoned them up all day. They're doing renovations. They were closed. I didn't know that, but I was phoning them all day. Thursday night, I call up my sister-in-law in Bnei Brak. Because I'm sure if I tell her that I'm looking for a place, that she'll invite me and the kids for Shabbos, and I'll have a wonderful Shabbos with my brother and his family for Shabbos in Bnei Brak. But I didn't realize that Miri, my brother's wife, didn't know that my wife had flown to England and I was by myself. So when I called her and I said to her, Miri, do you have a good place that we can stay for Shabbos? So she starts telling me, oh yes, well, 3 weeks ago we had a bar mitzvah in the Margah in Arad. It's by the desert outside of Yerushalayim, an hour away from Yerushalayim in the desert. It's a lovely hotel, cheap, and it's kosher, and it's very good, and it's very nice. You can go there with the kids. Now, had she realized that I was looking for a place because my wife wasn't with me, she would have invited us to Bnei Brak for Shabbos, but she didn't know, and I didn't know that she didn't know. So I was wondering, why didn't she invite us? No, okay, thank you very much. Put the phone down. I call up the Margah in Arad for Shabbos. I call up the Margah in Arad on Thursday night, and I say, do you have a room with me and for 4 kids? They say, actually we do. Come. Well, that's very nadir that on Thursday night you can book a place for Shabbos with kids. Okay, we're going to the Arad, the Margah in Arad for Shabbos. The next day, Friday morning, I'm packing the suitcase for my stuff for Shabbos. And I'm taking my Crocs with. And I realize I need a bag for my Crocs. And I see the cake in the bag on the side. And for some reason I thought to myself, you know what, you can't eat the cake, but the bag you can use. So I take the cake out the bag, I put the cake on the side, and I take the bag and I put my Crocs in the bag, and I put the bag in the suitcase. I close the suitcase, and off we go to the Margah in Arad. Okay, I get to the room in the Margah in Arad, and we start unpacking. And I take out the bag with the Crocs, and in the suitcase I see the cake. I said, how did the cake get in there? I'm sure I put it on the side. And then suddenly my 9-year-old Sari pipes up and says, oh, I saw the cake on the side. I thought you bought it for us for Shabbos as a treat, so I packed it. I said, no one touched the cake, it's not our cake, I don't know whose cake it is, I haven't asked the Shaila, I don't know what to do, no one touched the cake! No one touches the cake. I go downstairs, the Margah in Arad, to get another key for the room, and suddenly I hear, behind me, a voice. Shalom Aleichem, Sheish Mitzvahs Tamidias! I turn around and there's a chassid, who I never recognized because I'd never seen his face. And I realized this is the guy who left his cake in my car. I say to him, I've got your cake with the bag, wait here. I run upstairs, I can't believe it. I run upstairs, I run down with the cake, and I give it to this guy who's looking at me, shaking his head. Ma'anyen ma'od. I say to him, you never dreamt you'd see that cake again, right? But look what happens. He loses his cake, he forgets his cake in the car because he's Isaac in Torah and mitzvahs. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, don't worry. Not only will you not have to schlep the cake to Arad, I am going to deliver it by hand to the lobby of the hotel. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is doing this for an 11 shekel 80 cake. By the way, I was also mekayem a mitzvah d'oraisa v'shavas haveda, because even though we pass in yish shalom midas havi yish, be'isur bali yodo, he was meyayish when the cake was in my car. He forgot it inside my car. In which case I was chayav d'oraisa to give him back the cake. So when I gave him the cake, I was mekayem a mitzvah shavas haveda. But let's just contemplate for a second, chaverim. This is truly amazing. How many things needed to happen in order for me to get to the Margoa? Well, number one, I needed my wife to be flying that day, so we needed a chasna at that time. And I needed, the Galei Sons needed to be doing renovations at that time. And then I needed to phone up Miri, decide to phone Miri up, and she mustn't know that my wife is flying, and I mustn't know that she doesn't know, because otherwise she would have invited me. So, and then she has to have had a bar mitzvah 3 weeks before in the Margoa. So, she tells me about Margoa. The Margoa have to, on Thursday night, have time, a space for me and my kids for Shabbos. And then we have to go. Now, 1 second. I needed to think, yes, I can use the bag, but I can't use the cake. Because had I left the bag, the cake in the bag, Sari wouldn't have seen the cake. And she wouldn't have taken it. So Hashem had to make me separate the bag and the cake, so that I would take the bag, Sari would see the cake, and Sari, without asking, would have to pack the cake. And then we travel all the way to the Margoa. And all this is just to get me and the cake to the Margoa. Who knows how many things needed to happen in order to get that chussid to the Margoa. If you think for 1 second that it's a coincidence that HaKadosh Baruch Hu returned this guy's 11 shekel 80 cake to the Margoa in Arad, and he tells me he bought it for Shabbos. It was Wednesday night and he bought the cake for Shabbos, and it gets delivered by hand to his hotel. And you think that's a coincidence? You've got to be nuts! It's not a coincidence. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu who's arranging everything. Now let's think a second, Chaverim. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do all that to return a person's 11 shekel 70 cake, an 11 shekel 80 cake, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu can do all that, and is willing to do all that, to return a man's 11 shekel 80 cake, a $3 cake, and Hashem is going to do this without intervening with my free choice, and without intervening with his free choice, or Sari's free choice, or Miri's free choice, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu's got it all according to the result he wants, do you think HaKadosh Baruch Hu isn't in control of 600 million school children suddenly stopping school, countries closing down one by one? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not only in control of the whole macro scale, the whole world. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in control of every second, of every moment, of every single person's life. And the results are happening exactly according to what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants. Chaverim, I'm going to tell you a few eitzes, advice from Reb Chaim Pelagi Zatzal. He died in 1868, one of the great Achron, and he wrote a Sefer Refuah V'Chaim, and he tells us what we can do to be saved when there's a Magefa. So it's kedai to remember these things. Number one, to be misrachek from kas. During a Magefa, never get angry. Don't worry, don't be depressed, always be happy. Believe that? In a Magefa, one of the biggest protections of the Magefa is always be happy. If we think that we're HaKadosh Baruch Hu's chosen nation, what is a happier thought than that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu's looking down and he loves Klal Yisrael more than anyone else. To be Someach Tamid. And of course, to be Ma'aver al Midaisov. If someone insults you, be silent. To say Parshas HaKeteris every day. To say Parshas Akedah. And here's an interesting one. To be Merachem al Kulam, including Balei Chayim, which are mazik on Nechoshim. Now is not the time to kill a snake. You find a snake in your backyard, you call the snake people, but don't kill it. To be Merachem, especially on everything, on people, and even Balei Chayim, even dangerous Balei Chayim, we don't kill them. Now is not the time. Midvasheke Tirchok, stay away from lies. Mea Brachas, 100 brachas a day. Now if you say Shachris Mincha Marav, you daven Shachris Mincha Marav every day, and you say Asher Yotzah after the bathroom, then you're pretty safe saying, and you eat of course and drink, you're pretty safe of making Mea brachas any day without even counting. If you try counting and see, you'll basically be saying over 100 brachas a day. Remember when David HaMelech was Magif in the time of David HaMelech was Mesakein to say 100 brachas a day. And there were 100 people dying a day, and that saved 100 people dying a day. So we have Mea brachas, be makpid on the brachas, but we can be makpid on the kavanah of the brachas. On Shabbos, although on Shabbos, you should check, because there's a number of brachas you're missing from the weekday, so count on Shabbos how many brachas you're missing. And sometimes you've got 96, 97, you're going to need to make another couple of, 2 or 3 brachas to make it 100. So people should be makpid on Shabbos as well. And of course, Lashon Hara. We don't say Lashon Hara. Lashon Hara is a terrible, terrible thing. I'm sure you know that. Well, why is it so terrible? I'll tell you a very brief teretz, and this will finish. You see, HaKadosh Baruch Hu works midah keneged midah. We all know that. Midah keneged midah means, in the same way that you behave, your punishment or reward will be in the same fashion. So what happens when a person says Lashon Hara? Well, technically, it's not the biggest Aveira. There are bigger Aveiras, Chilul Shabbos, and other Aveiras. But what happens is, when a person does an Aveira, she creates bad malachim, kitrugim in Shamayim. And those bad malachim are constantly cursing him, and they're bringing his din to the base mishpat in Shamayim the whole time. And of course, when he does mitzvahs, he has Sanigorim, he's creating good malachim who are protecting him. But do you know what? All those malachim of all those Aveiras, they've got no mouth. So they're all in Shamayim going, There's a limit to how loud they can be by going, All the Aveiras he's done, they've got no mouth. And of course the Sanigorim, they've got a bear, they've got a mouth. He said a bracha, he learned Torah. And of course, they're being melitz tov for him in Shamayim. But these bad malachim, they've got no mouth. Until Nebuch the Yid says Lashon Hara. The Yid says Lashon Hara, Reuven speaks about Shimon. So in Shamayim they say, if Reuven spoke about Shimon, so all these malachim who want to speak about Reuven from his Aveiras, suddenly they'll be given a mouth, and suddenly all the Aveiras scream out, ah! And make a tumult in Shamayim. That's one of the reasons why Lashon Hara is such a terrible thing. Im Yitzah Hashem, Yidden, Chaverim, we should all be mischazek. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running everything. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us. And for that reason alone, there's no better reason to be so me'ach that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us, and we are His chosen nation.